Hi, Ethan here. So, answering the first question, discuss how your definition of professional communication is or was different from and similar to the perspective presented in Chapter 1. I think my original interpretation of professional communication changed a little bit while reading the chapter, but overall it remained quite the same. I had a lot of similarities in my original idea of what it was and with what was in the chapter. Um, like, for instance, in my original discussion, I related professional communication to thinking of suits and ties at a table. However, that's not what professional communication was. Without realizing it, I was describing context within communication, and which is the location, time, situations, and occasions that communication takes place. These all vary, and it may be suits at a table, or I know the book mentioned something about like a small company of a small publishing company might be a little bit different than like a big investing firm or something like that. Like, those are all going to be contexts of communication based on where they're at and all that stuff. The other one thing that I didn't recognize before reading the chapter was, I think I did recognize it, but I didn't really tie it to professional communication, was the fact that different channels and methods of communication change the way that we communicate. I think this is why one of the main reasons that bullying and cyberbullying, for that matter, are so prevalent in our day and age is because it's so easy to hide behind that camera. Like, everyone uses that expression to hide behind that device because you don't have to do that kind of stuff face to face, if that makes sense. Just gotta find where I left off here. That was mainly on the context was on page 9. On page 5 and 6, it talks more about the uh, channels and how you're more likely to send something aggressive or rude through an email than you are if you're talking to someone face to face. So yeah, I think that these different channels can affect communication both in a negative way and a positive way. I mean, like I talked about earlier, like there's that aspect of cyberbullying, which is obviously a negative thing, but there's also many positive things to come out of um, all the different channels of communication, like texting and calling, such as like us kids being at college probably wouldn't have had as much communication with back home, but now that we have our smartphones and social media, it's super easy to stay in touch with everyone and to keep those friendships. Um, as we read on page 6 a little bit more, it talks about the relationships and how the relationships that we have with people are affect the way that we communicate with them. For instance, I'm gonna have a different conversation or communication series, however you want to put that, with a teacher than I would with one of my friends, or with a coworker than I would my significant other. Um, and that's with anyone. That's not just me. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what I got from professional communication from the chapter. To create my answering the second question, to create my resume. So the resume that I attached was actually one that was generated for me from a program I did in my high school. And so it's almost a dumbed down version of a resume. I've never really had to use a real resume because I've always worked for a family owned company, and I've never had to fill that out, if that makes sense. Or any job that I did apply for didn't require a resume. It was family and friends that helped me get the job. So it's kind of it's kind of almost childish, I would say, but I think it'll work for this assignment. Thanks.